Welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from the NFL. The Packers and quarterback Jordan Love agree on a one-year contract extension worth up to $22.5 million, 13 of which will be guaranteed. They're starting a new era there as the Jets hope that Aaron Rodgers is what they lack. We'll see. I don't know. I respect what Rodgers does, but he's so much of a diva anymore. Sometimes I wonder if it's even worth it with him, although they have a very talented team. What about Jordan Love? You think he's the real deal out there in Green Bay?
Real deal, no. I think that the NFC is a very top-heavy conference. I think you've got the Eagles. We don't even know who San Francisco's quarterback is going to be this year.
I bet you it's
Purdy's
Darnold.
Elbow injury. I think you're right. I had somebody tell me when he signed on the first day of free agency, he had to know something was going on there. Bob, every time Darnold plays against the Steelers, he looks good. I know his numbers are pathetic, but when I see that guy, what he did against Penn State in the Rose Bowl, and then when I see him against the Steelers, I always think the guy's good. So you put him in that offense with those weapons and that scheme, I'm with you. I think he'll play well there if given the opportunity. But once you get past the Eagles, Niners, and I guess even Cowboys, I mean, good luck finding four other teams to make the playoffs in the NFC. So I think the Packers have a shot, even with Jordan Love having a delayed start to his career.
Right. All the competition is in the AFC, which has all the big quarterbacks. And you wonder where the Steelers, and listen, not that I think the Steelers are going to contend for a Super Bowl this year, but I do think they've closed the gap on being a playoff team. I do. Now, they were close last year, but I mean, with what they've done, with what they've brought in and pieces to the puzzle, especially offensively, with some good ads on defense, I think they could be better than Cleveland, and I think they can challenge Baltimore. I'll put Cincinnati ahead of them, though.
Yeah, I like them more than Baltimore and Cleveland. Seattle had a great draft last year, found 4 starters. They found 2 offensive tackles. I think you did that preseason game, Bob.
Yeah.
They found 2 offensive tackles that started. Woolen in the 5th round. The corner was the defensive rookie of the year. And Kenneth Walker, the running back, went for 1,000 yards. And without that draft class, even with Geno Smith, they don't make the playoffs. They needed to get great return from their draft. And I think the Steelers, if it's as good as we think it is, they should have 3 or 4 guys who start and contribute this year. So you add that on a team that won 9 games last year. T.J. Watt missed so many games, and Kenny Pickett will be better. So I think the baseline for this team is 9 wins. I think they'll win 10, maybe even 11. And their schedule, Bob, I've looked at it. I know schedules can change, but outside of a trip to Cincinnati, where they did win last year, there's not a tough road game. San Francisco comes here. Jacksonville comes here. Green Bay comes here. They got a very favorable schedule in 2023.
Yeah, but as you said, some of those home teams could end up being a lot tougher than you think. And I know it's home, and you expect those to be wins, but it's not that easy in the NFL. Let's go to the lines. We'll begin with Jim in Peters Township. Pony, he's first up tonight.
How you doing?
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Folks. Hey, I used to pitch. Here's what it is in a balk. You have to come to a set position on the mound. Once you come to set position, then you throw. You don't see too many balks in baseball nowadays. They were right about it. I mean, I could not believe it.
I don't know about that.
No, I do know. I used to pitch, Bob.
No, I know that, but I was also paying attention to the pitch clock. Now, if you're going to add that component to it, which it was down to 1 to 0, Thompson did pause. It was not as long as you would have liked, but he did pause. I went back and looked over and over at that thing. I know that.
So I've a little bit of information on that. So the crowd mic on the Tampa Bay broadcast did pick up what Hedges said. And Hedges was arguing for a balk, not a pitch clock violation. So that was at least what we heard on field from Hedges. I thought it was weird. Matt Capps was in the broadcast booth tonight, former pitcher. He was very silent. I didn't hear him say anything. Bob, wasn't that weird? Were you watching the game too?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought for sure a former pitcher would have a strong opinion on that. And Brownie was kind of going crazy. And Capps didn't say anything, which almost made me feel like he was not convinced that it was a balk. I've seen opinions from both sides. Naked eye, it was very hard for me to tell. I'd have to go back and watch it again. But I do know that's what the Pirates. Bottom line is Hedges has got to get his head right back in the batter's box there and finish the at-bat, and I feel like he didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. But, again, you're right. Matt Capps should have said more. Steve Benko and I, our producer, sitting up there watching, we thought it was a pitch clock thing at first because we watched the pitch clock. And with that component in it, if you're a pitcher, you know you got to get that pitch off. he did pause. It was ever so briefly, but he did. I don't know if there's a rule about how long you're supposed to pause, but I think that's a very interesting call. And it kind of mixes in with the pitch clock. So you're looking at two different things, trying to figure out what's going on. Let's go out to Ray in Whitehall. Joins us right now on the Borders and Borders hotline. What's up, Ray?
Hey, how you doing? I actually thought about a possible lineup change, and I thought about this back when they were playing Cincinnati, because I know they scored runs against the Dodgers and Nationals, but they scored like 10 runs against the Reds, even though they won all 4 games. I think they need to put Reynolds in the third spot. That is the perfect spot for a guy who can have a mixture of power and average. I think his capabilities are being wasted a little by the number 2 position because he's not being given as much of a chance to drive in runs. Then I would put either Castro or Bay, preferably Bay, in the 2 slot because he could slap the ball around. He does draw some walks. And I think this is a change that needs to be made as the season progresses because they're going to be facing better pitching like they did tonight, and they'll need to change things up.
Well, thank you, Ray. First of all, I think McCutcheon's a little overuse right now, and it's showing. Number 2, with O'Neill Cruz normally in that leadoff spot, that had to change the entire lineup for Derek Shelton. So Hayes is up there now. He's been okay, but I like Hayes bad. If O'Neill Cruz is there, it changes it all. So as far as Reynolds, I kind of like him in the 2 spot. I think he's been productive there, Andrew, and I wouldn't move him.
Yeah, is Mike Trout the best hitter in baseball, Bob?
One of them.
In your opinion, Mike Trout?
One of them.
He hit second. Did Aaron Judge set the record for home runs by an American League hitter last year? He hit second. That's just what they do now in baseball. If you've got an issue with that, take it up with the entire league. Just about every team puts their best hitter in the 2 spot. All the numbers, I guess, back that up. I thought he was going to say when Bay plays, hit him lead off and have Hayes down in the lineup. To me, I want the guy that wreaks havoc on the bases and is constantly in the pitcher's head because he's a guy that can drag bunt. If he works a walk, to me, he's someone that you want to give the most opportunities to because he's such a threat when he gets on the bases, Bob.
Yeah, the problem is his defense at times, especially when he plays center. You got to figure out a place to put him. At second, he's less of a problem.
I agree, but I'm saying when he plays, he should bat leadoff.
No,
I know what you're saying.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Let's go out to Martin, who joins us in Plum. Hey, Martin.
Hey, fellas. I was noticing the home plate umpires, are calling balls strikes and not doing a very good job of it. How the hitter's supposed to know what to swing at or what not to. Also, too, I noticed that Tampa Bay, the whole lineup, looked like they've been hitting the weights for decades, It made the Pirates look small.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have said long ago, and I remain this way, I hate the strike zone box. I hate it. I don't think it gives all it does is make people angry all the time. I don't think it's centered the right way. I have my doubts about whether or not pitches are actually on the edge or not. I think if you didn't have it, you wouldn't have as many people complaining. That's just my opinion, Andrew. But based on what we saw tonight and others, it has been rather inconsistent. I would agree with that.
I thought the problem was it didn't seem like the same strike zone for both teams. I thought Rays pitchers were getting strikes called that the Pirates pitchers weren't. A perfect example was on that Hedges throw down to second, that double steal play. A breaking ball comes in. It clearly breaks in for a strike right around the belt, and it gets called a ball by the umpire. And that was just one very noticeable example of when the Pirates got a ball called and the Rays were getting that pitch called for a strike all night. I don't care if an umpire has a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller strike zone for a game, as long as he applies that rule to both teams. And I felt like that didn't happen tonight, which gives, I think, more credence to the idea. Let's get a robot in there, Bob. Let's get Tomo Arigato, Mr. Roboto in there.
It will happen at some point. The question is just when will it happen? We'll see. They've tried just about everything, and that's going to be the last horizon. They'll get there eventually. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll focus a little bit in on the NHL and the NBA, what's going on there. We'll do it when we return right here on Pittsburgh CW at 93.7 The Fan.